Hi guys, so today I am here with a video talking about how I found out I was pregnant at 19. I know I am 2 years too late kind of to be filming this video, but I did do a Twitter poll and I asked you guys, I said if anyone's interested in this video, answer the poll, and 90% of people said, yeah girl, film this video. So I was like, okay, that's good. So I am going to kind of do a story time today, and I don't normally do them, so I'm kind of excited about it. And if you'd like to see more, let me know, and let me know what you'd like to hear, because I'm sure I have more stories. So, like I said, this is going to be the story about how I found out I was pregnant with my daughter when I was 19. I'm going to kind of set the stage a little bit because if you are new to my channel, you're probably stumbling across this and you're not going to understand what's going on, so I'm going to explain it. So at 19, I had been out of my parents' house for a little over a year with my boyfriend at the time. We had been together we were going on 4 years, and we're married now, so we've been together for quite a while. Almost 7 years. It'll be 7 years this year. But we were together for like 3.5 years at the time. We lived together. When I first moved out, I moved in with him and his mom, and then some things happened, so we decided to move to North Carolina. So that's where I was when I was 19, and we were living with his dad at the time. We had not moved into our own place yet, but we were working and figuring out, financial situation in order to move out. So that's where we were, and so like I said, I was 19. I was living with my boyfriend who was 20, and his dad and his brother. So yeah, I feel like that's good. I feel like I said it pretty well. I felt like that was going to be a longer setting the stage, but I think it worked out pretty well. So, oh, and one more disclaimer is that at the time I was also not on birth control. I had been off of birth control for about a year, so that was that. I normally get my periods every Tuesday. I have gotten my period every Tuesday probably since I started my period when I was, hitting puberty. I would always start on Tuesdays. Tuesdays were my start days, whether I was on birth control, I was off birth control. I had a very normal, I feel like, scheduled period, so I always knew when it was coming. I always knew if something was wrong. It was always very consistent. So I think it was June. I think we found out in June I was pregnant. So it was June, and that Tuesday rolled around where I was supposed to start my period, and I hadn't had any sort of PMS signs. Now, I don't know at the time if I was getting as, I guess, bad or as, PMS signs as I do now that I'm a little bit older, but I didn't have any of the signs, but I knew I was supposed to be starting, so I was like, okay, I was just preparing for it. I would always take a Midol or an ibuprofen the night before just to kind of alleviate the cramps the next day, because I do get cramps pretty bad. So I took my ibuprofen or whatever that Monday night, and I woke up Tuesday morning and I checked and I didn't start my period, and I was like, okay, I have all day, whatever. So I think I went to work and I just did whatever, and I came home and I still hadn't started, so it was like, okay, well, maybe I'll start Wednesday morning. Maybe it'll just start over Tuesday night. I don't know. Sometimes it's a little weird like that, but I was just gonna go with it. So Wednesday rolls around and I don't start my period, and I don't think I worked that day, but I remember being like, okay, this is a little bit weird, because normally I would have started. Like I said, I was a very scheduled period starter. I always started at my scheduled time, and I started to notice different things. I was really, really tired, and I was like, oh, whatever, it's just maybe I'm just growing or something. So I kind of slept the majority of that day and just kind of did nothing. And that night I went to take a shower, and I've said this story a lot to people when they ask how I first knew I was pregnant, but I got in the shower, and when I first get in the shower, I face the shower, and I sort of just kind of go like this, and I let the hot water just steam its way onto my skin, I'm basically letting Satan into me, and I'm just like, yes, feels so good. So I was standing there like this, perfectly like this. I was standing like this, and then I went to turn around, so I moved my hands down, and I went to turn, and as I turned, a stream of water barely grazed my nipple, and it felt like a knife just chopped it off. It hurt so bad, and I was like, what? This was so weird. So I kind of turned back into the water, and I noticed that my boobs and my nipples just hurt so bad, and I was like, why, this is weird, this is totally not normal, okay. And so that's when I started to be like, okay, maybe something's off. So I took my shower and I went and laid in bed, and I of course got on my phone, started Googling the first symptoms of pregnancy, and I realized that I'm sort of having a couple of them, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm pregnant. I haven't started my period yet, maybe I'm pregnant. So the next day I wake up, and both Brian, who's my husband, we were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, but he's my husband now, we both went to work that day. We carpooled to work, and I was working at a Barnes & Noble cafe, so like the Starbucks cafe. And I worked a full shift that day. I think I worked like 8 or 9 hours that day. And I kept taking bathroom breaks, not just to like go pee, but just to kind of keep checking to see if I would start my period. And maybe like I just wasn't cramping and I wouldn't know. So I would keep checking. I think I went to the bathroom like 3 or 4 times that day, or maybe like 5 or 6 times. It felt like a lot for an 8-hour period. And the last time I went to the bathroom, when I was texting Brian the time I was going to be getting off, I said, we're gonna go to Dollar Tree, we're gonna pick up pregnancy tests because I feel like I'm pregnant. So the Dollar Tree was right by our house at the time, so I got in the car on the way home, and the whole entire way to the Dollar Tree I was just like spaced out. I'm sure Brian was talking to me, but I was just kind of like, everything was just like going through my head. I was like, I feel like I'm pregnant. I totally feel like I'm pregnant. Like this, it feels so like I literally like had like the mother's intuition. Like I was like, I know I'm pregnant. Like I 100% know right now that I'm pregnant. Like we're gonna take this test and it's gonna be positive. So we go into Dollar Tree and I get the little test. It's like a little square test, and we just get one. And we go home, and I was chugging like, oh my god, I was chugging like Mountain Dew or something on the way to the house. And I immediately, of course, had to pee. So we went to our room and I went to the bathroom and we let it load. It was one of those ones that like has to like load up. So I went to the bathroom on it, and we both just kind of sat there and just like stared at it and just stared at it. And it loaded pretty fast, I feel, for pregnancy tests. Like they say they take up to 2 minutes, but it went like really fast. So when it loads, the first bar, which means that the test has like gone through, loads, and then the second bar will either load or not load, meaning you're pregnant or not pregnant. So it went pretty fast. The first bar came up pretty prominent, obviously it worked, and then it went to the second bar and kind of like stuttered a little bit and then kept going, and there was like a line. And you can be like 100% sure that you're pregnant in your head, but like the second you take that test and it says that you're pregnant, it's kind of like a holy shit kind of moment, really. You're just like, oh my god, like I'm actually pregnant. Like I knew I was, but like now I have that confirmation. So it said I was pregnant, and of course I believed it. Brian believed it, but we were like, you know what, let's take a couple more. So we went back to the Dollar Tree. It was like 5 minutes up the road, and we got another one of the square tests, and then we got first response, I think, the pink box. We got another one of those too. So I took the other 2. I was chugging water that entire time, and I got back and I peed on both of them at the same time, and they both came back positive. And I mean, we really expected that, obviously, because the first test was so clearly positive, like 2 days after my missed period, clearly positive. So I mean, of course, like I said, you could be 100% sure that you're pregnant, but when you take the test and you get that confirmation, you're just like, what? So I was shocked, but I wasn't, I mean, I guess I was a little scared, but I wasn't like really scared. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel anything bad. We were actually both kind of excited, which I know sounds crazy to be like 19 and pregnant and excited, but we were both pretty excited. I feel like I texted my best friend like immediately, and I called my mom immediately as well. At the time, like I said, I was living in North Carolina, and at the time she was living in Virginia. So I called her and we sat on the phone for probably like 2 hours. Like we used to talk a lot on the phone. So I pretty much called her, and I don't know, I don't think I was crying. I was just kind of like sitting there calmly, and I was like, so guess what? And like immediately she was like, I'm gonna be a grandma. Yeah. Yeah, you guessed it pretty quickly. So my parents weren't mad or disappointed or anything like that. Like I said, I had been moved out for a little over a year, and I was on my way to getting an apartment, and we were both working, and we'd been together, me and Brian had been together for so long that they were just like, oh, like they weren't like mad or disappointed, but I don't think they were as excited as they were as when I gave birth. But yeah, so I was 19 when I found out I was pregnant, and in no way am I glorifying getting pregnant at 19. We definitely struggled. I would say we struggled my entire pregnancy, and then we struggled a little bit after. Right now we're in a really good place in our lives. I am 22 and my daughter is actually going to be 2 in like a week, which is crazy. So we're in a much better place than we were when we first found out we were pregnant, and then, you know, all throughout the pregnancy. But yeah, that is how I found out I was pregnant. I really just knew. And a lot of people always ask me when they think they're pregnant, they're like, how did you know? What were the first signs? And I'm telling you, like, if you know you're pregnant, like, you just know. Like, your body just, like, you know. You just know. It's so hard to explain, but you just feel so different. Like, everything just feels sort of out of body. So that's how I found out I was pregnant. I feel like I've told this story before, but I definitely wanted to have a video separately, just kind of telling you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this sort of story time video. Again, if you have any suggestions or requests, let me know in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I'll see you guys in my next video.